Hi, good evening, everybody. I think we are live, and I'm really glad to introduce Aadil Bandukwala to you today. He's the Senior Director of Marketing at HackerRank. And I'll give you a really quick intro about Aadil, and then we can dive into the session directly. Aadil is a seasoned B2B marketing leader with a proven track record of driving measurable growth year on year on all things demand gen, brand, and customer advocacy. SHRM India has ranked Adil as one of India's top 20 most influential people in human resources on social media for 5 years straight from 2014 to 2019. In 2019, Adil also authored a book called Outbound Hiring: How Innovative Companies Are Winning the Global War on for Talent, which was published by Bloomsbury Worldwide and retails at majority online and offline channels. He also hosts a podcast called The Great Indian Marketing Show, which for all of 2021 has been trending as one of India's best marketing podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So many hats, Adil. I don't know how you do it. But yeah, I'm really interested about today's topic as well, which is challenging demand gen and content marketing models. This has pretty much been the hot topic for the evening because really want to kind of understand your thoughts and your insights on how you look at demand gen and how you look at content marketing, how it was done before, if you think the playbook is still relevant today or not, and how you see that shaping up, moving ahead, what it looks like for SaaS marketing. Adil, please jump right in. I'll stop. Don't want to take any more time. Go ahead. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Vikrant, for that lovely intro. Let me try and see if I can get to share my screen.
Yeah.
Right. I'm hoping you're able to see my screen. All right, great. So let's get started. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining in. Please do keep sending in those comments in the conversations, and I'll try and see if I can answer them in real time. Right. So I want to get started by this quote that Raju at Zoho made. He said that the industry has taken automation way too far. Human interaction is more valuable as people are shouting that this is just not working. I'm sure all of you, maybe this quote resonates with a lot of you, right? Because suddenly what happened was we were all living in the age of human interaction where we were meeting people face to face, and suddenly the pandemic strikes, and for a year and a half, we've all been just working from home. And given that, suddenly there is a barrage of marketeers trying to hit all the consumers, irrespective of it's B2B, B2C. And because human interaction has been thrown out of the window, people are saying that this is just not working. So the question is, how do you kind of crack the code? And when you kind of see this, I think what happens is you reach an inflection point. And I'm going to try and open a poll here. I'm going to try and attempt to open a poll here. Let's see if that works. Here's publishing a poll. Let me know if you can see it, and please start indicating your answers. I think as the industry, different brands are at an inflection point. What that means is we'll either adapt to this remote workforce, and suddenly you'll see that because marketeers have adapted and you're finding GTM alignment, your business starts going up north, or potentially you still don't figure this stuff out. And as a result, your business starts declining because somebody else solves it faster than you. Somebody else starts solving this better than you. So I'd love to understand if you're seeing this. Do you agree that we are at an inflection point? Do you think that we are perhaps not at an inflection point? Do you think that this is business as usual? So interesting polls there. I think there are a couple of people who agree. It's pretty dispersed actually. If you see, we're saying everybody has one hat in each of these particular baskets. So now that we've got the public opinion on that, let me try and move on into why I think this is happening. And because of this, what brands need to do. I think the current state of marketers is that Google recently announced that third-party cookies will no longer be used by 2022. What that means is that brands have got to change their strategy to using first-party data and also trying to adapt to zero-party data, which means that their direction now completely changes. And what I mean by that is that between current events and sweeping policy changes, brands are smack in the middle of multiple strategic inflection points right now, and not just a single strategic inflection point. And that means that a lot will change in terms of how we go about building our demand gen and brand programs. So if that all is going to change, what do we need to do? I think as businesses, we'll have to transform to build trust. This is the only thing that will help us win businesses, establish humane connections with people, and we'll want to get them to trust like they would get them to trust in everyday life. And if we've got to kind of trust, then I think we've got to transform by pushing aside our old school traditional kind of stuff to move on to be more digital. And what I mean by that is, instead of a sales-driven purchase process, you've got to move to a buyer-driven purchase process. A lot of times, we look at product journeys and we're creating customer journeys. I'm not sure how many of us actually have depicted and drawn buyer journeys. And at those buyer journeys, do we track those inflection points? Do we actually try and see, oh, if I nudge the customer here, can I potentially turn them into an advocate? Can I potentially turn them into an evangelist? We've got to move from single channel tactics to multi-channel journeys. We've got to kind of move to MAQLs, which is marketing account qualified leads. Gone are the days when you just say that, hey, I'm going to give you leads, your sales guys are going to be satisfied. Now people are not. They're going to say, I need high value introductions. So how are you going to solve for that, and solve for that at scale is a question, right? You've got to have a field and HQ connected marketing play. I think a lot of times, I don't know if you agree, if you do, drop in a comment just so that I understand we're aligned here. I have seen 80% of organizations that I interact with, sales and marketing, hate each other. They don't talk to each other. The sales guy thinks that the marketing can never solve his problem, and his or her problems are very different on the ground, while marketing thinks their job is to just give air cover, and sales is just not utilizing this air cover. And because of this friction, I think a lot of times there is misalignment and both the functions suffer. So we can't, like you say, it's a common problem, it's a perennial problem. The question is, can we leverage new age marketing and sales stacks today to solve this problem? And what is the answer to this question? So till now, I was just trying to define the problem. You're asking me, Aadil, this problem is no different. We've heard multiple times. What's the solution? Can you walk us through the solution? So I think when you think about demand or revenue marketing, right, I think there are 4 strategic pillars. Now, it could be different to different companies, but in terms of B2B SaaS organizations, I have seen these 4 pillars working really well for a lot of companies. The first one is prospect community and influencer marketing, where the intent is to deepen relationships with tier 1 accounts and really top influencers who can help make buying decisions and push your top of the line accounts to middle of the funnel accounts to bottom of the funnel accounts to actually close one. So that's number 1. Number 2 is industry advisory board. I'm just seeing Abhinav's comment which says developers hate sales and marketing guys. Completely understand, and I totally relate to that, Abhinav, simply because a lot of us legacy marketing guys, we just try to bombard people with emails and ads, and that's just not cool. Right? I mean, most of us, when we do that, people are not going to buy. It's about how we're going to go and actually convert people to evangelists. And I think there are quite a few brands who get this right in India. I mean, a great fan in India, particularly I am, of Dunzo. If you think Dunzo's Twitter handle, it's hilarious. They connect, they never send you promotional messages. Their push notifications are hilarious and funny. I think it's a brand that's kind of cracked the code in the B2C space. But anyways, moving on. I was talking about the second one is an industry advisory board. Can you kind of get cohorts of not a single advisory board, but multiple advisory board to land you high value introductions and get rapid feedback to your product team? Because a lot of times you've got to align with your product teams. The third one is account-based marketing. Can you have a high-touch campaign? And I'd love to talk to you about a tech stack and what tech stack we're using and what I see other firms using. And lastly, I feel there are like 5 archetypes of content marketing models. I'd love to share them with you. Right? So if those are all relevant, please let me know and we'll get started. If you think any one of those is irrelevant, feel free to give me an emoji as well. And what I'll try and do is I will try and ignore that particular part. So if any particular part in this conversation you're feeling bored, give me a thumbs down. I'll move faster. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. I'll go. I'll try and dive a little more. First one: prospect community and influencer marketing. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but LinkedIn Live is a phenomenal platform that I've been leveraging to drive leads and high quality leads through our sales process. LinkedIn says that with LinkedIn Live, you get 7x more reactions and 24x more comments. And I couldn't agree more with this, because if you look at the last live stream that I hosted with the CTO of Dunzo Mukul. If you just go and check it out on my company page, you will see that I got over 600 comments on a single live stream in 1 hour. That really shows the power of LinkedIn Live as a platform if you crack the code and you do it right. This is a testimonial from Salesforce, where Marissa, who's their director of social and content marketing, actually says that they not only hit sheer organic viewers, but people were thoroughly engaged and their view time was longer than Salesforce traditionally expected. And that's totally true for us as well. I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn Live. I'm an early adopter. In the last 15 months at HackerRank, we've done 21 LinkedIn live streams. So we typically do one a month or two a month. And if you think about it, we've organized live streams with leaders in the industry across 14 global brands and 17 APAC headquartered brands. All of these are marquee brands, and people really, really enjoy connecting with these. What are the kind of personas we brought on board? We've typically tried to get managing directors, we've tried to get country heads, we've tried to get VPs and directors of engineering persona, because HackerRank has a both B2B and a B2C play. So I'm trying to get both kind of speakers that will adapt to multiple audiences. My audiences really are hiring managers, developers, talent leaders, and CHROs. So the intent is, how can I attune to these four audiences at the same time with a topic that resonates to everybody? So what are my observations and what results have I seen? We've seen that typically when you do LinkedIn Live, you have a decent following, you'll have concurrent live views in the 100. Now, pardon me, I won't be able to say exact metrics from my company because they're confidential and all that jazz, but I've tried to extrapolate them to you. So it could be in hundreds. So it's not just 120, 130. It goes beyond just that in a few hundreds, right? And in terms of live views, we've seen people in my last live stream, we saw 6,000 odd unique live views, meaning over 6,000 plus people came in and tried to participate. From a playback views perspective, what's very interesting is we not only live stream on LinkedIn, but parallelly we live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter as well. And we've seen that over a year, if your video rests there on YouTube and you don't do any marketing, it gets 20x more live views. So for example, if you score 6,000 live views, this is going to get you at least, let's say, 20x more live views in the next 1 year, and with zero effort on YouTube. And there are multiple models that have proven this. You can go look at a lot of research that shows this. And last is you can adapt to multiple audiences, and you can do this, which is really cool that people love. In form of a tech stack, this is what our tech stack looks like at HackerRank when we do live events. So we use StreamYard as a platform to go live across multiple channels. We go live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Now, what you can do is you can do intro and outro videos. You can generate polls in the form of videos to engage people throughout that conversation. And we use InVideo for that. It's a fantastic player that competes with the likes of Canva, but just does only videos. And they've got fantastic templates. Marketers don't have to liaison with video creators. You can just go drag and drop and use the platform. It's phenomenal. We love it. Marketo is where obviously our marketing CRM lies, and Salesforce is where our sales CRM lies. On SalesLoft, we have a sales acceleration CRM. So what that means is as soon as somebody signs up via my landing page on LinkedIn Events Live, I can download that spreadsheet, import the leads into Marketo. Marketo hands it over to Salesforce. What Salesforce does then is it has a handshake with SalesLoft. SalesLoft automatically starts doing email cadences that we program to reach out to this audience so that sales guys can land meetings. The ultimate goal is either to do thought leadership or reach out to select personas, not all of them, because they won't make sense to you, but can you automatically put up a framework to land meetings to high value personas that sales guys can interact with, and can you do that on autopilot? So this framework helps us do that. And then copywriting, you can use copy.ai to generate brilliant copy, and Sprout Social to schedule your social media messages. So that's my tech stack for our LinkedIn Live and events. So that's the first one. We hope you like that one. If you like that particular one, give us a thumbs up. Now I'm going to move to the industry advisory board. Thank you for that heart emoji. Glad you're kind of enjoying that. Let's move to the industry advisory board. I think having an industry advisory board is extremely important. So what is an early stage industry advisory board? An early stage industry advisory board is where a group of industry leaders come and join you. It's not your company board, but let's say if you're a SaaS player who's trying to sell to the tech industry and finance industry in India, Australia, and Singapore, you could have multiple industry boards for these countries, for these markets. What you do is you try and get people who are evangelists of your solution, who like the solution, or who are experts in those domains to give your product feedback. And because they're part of your industry advisory board now, you can go and ask them for introductions to accounts that they're keen at or they have contacts at. What that does is just shortens your introduction process to your sales folks. So as sales folks get introductions to people faster. Now, what's in it for them? Why will people buy into industry advisory boards? One, I think it'll help them if you help their business. Two, if you help solve problems for them in their day-to-day or their career. Three, if you help them advance your personal brand, their personal brand. So you got to kind of make sure that something meaty in it for them. So what's the use case? The use case is that the interest can be applied to a variety of use cases depending on where you are in your GTM or product development business cycles. Lastly, you can create massive leverage with this to create a halo effect around your company. Imagine if you have like the who's who of the India SaaS ecosystem validating you and talking about you on social media, giving you those high value intros, your sales funnel can actually skyrocket. So building an industry advisory board is extremely essential. So how do you do this? How do you actually build it? And what do you do to make this happen? The first thing is make it exclusive, right? Show people that there are high value people that you'll bring into this exclusive circle. And this has to be 5-6 people, not like a boatload of people. Make it extremely exclusive. Two, be vulnerable and tell these people, these are areas of our expertise, but these are areas where we suck. We don't do well at all. So can you help us? And you'll be surprised, people are amazingly helpful. Three, ask for precise feedback. Tell them that you would expect their contribution in the form of time for an hour a month and also an hour a quarter. So every month, 1 hour, and then with the team, we need an hour a quarter. We'd love to brainstorm with you what's working, what's not, depending on areas that you are an expert at. Lastly, establish that cadence that I told you about. And fifth, turn them into evangelists. Can you kind of ask them to showcase that they're part of your board on your LinkedIn profile? Can you ask them to give us a shout out on Twitter? Can you kind of engage with them in live streams, so on and so forth? So cement your thought leadership. So that was the second part. Now coming to the third part, which is account-based experience. I'm glad you're liking it. Thank you so much for your thumbs up. It means a lot. Let's move to the next one. If you have any questions, do put it in the chat and I'll pick it up immediately. I do see there are a couple of questions. Could you share a use case relevant to a 5-year-old fintech startup for an industry ad board? Oh, absolutely. So think about it. If you can get someone like an Amrish Rao, who's co-founder of Citrus earlier, right? If you can get someone like a Kunal Shah, imagine the wealth of knowledge that comes in. And imagine if you're sharing your product roadmap with them and asking for inputs, you'd just reduce so many mistakes. And at the same time, when you're trying to sell, let's say to B2B or B2C, they can introduce you to the right people who've been there, done that, so you can do exactly what you're supposed to do faster. So, I hope that helped. I'm more than happy to connect with you offline as well. Drop me a note on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever. I'm fairly active on most social media channels, and I'm happy to chat offline as well. Let's move on to account-based marketing, and Abhinav, I'll take your question a little after that. So account-based experience. Let me come to my slides. All right, here you go. I think account-based experience can be of 3 types for different companies. One is you could run a 1:many, which is to your ideal customer profile. 2, you could run it 1:few, which is specific verticals and persona lists. And 3 is you could run it 1:1, which is just tier 1 top accounts, where let's say you're doing it only for exclusively 20-25 accounts, where there's crazy orchestration and synergy across field sales, SDR, and marketing reps. So if you look at the ABX funnel, right, you start at target accounts. Very important to identify the accounts, both at a land level and expand level, which is at a hunt level and at a farm level. Secondly, figure out how many are engaged accounts, then narrow down and prioritized, then qualified, figure out opportunities and closed one. The goal should be of an ABM campaign. How can I create 10x increase over inbound when I look at it, when I start the campaign and when I deliver the campaign? So if you can do that from a 10x deliverable, I think you'll be in a very, very good space. The question is, how do you actually go and do it? I think here's the workflow that I've been following, we've been following at HackerRank, and what I've done in my past organizations as well. So one is allow sales to handpick accounts. Now, bucket different accounts for different plays. If there's a self-serve play where somebody can go and buy your tool via a credit card, that has to be a separate play. A full serve play where field sales reps have going to go and sell to customers, have a separate play. Within these two plays, bucket multiple plays. Have a separate play for customers, have a separate place for prospect, have a separate play for segmentation. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Vikrant. Thank you. So once sales picks up these accounts, then what you do is you figure out via your HubSpot and or Marketo and Salesforce sync in terms of who are your users, buyers, and influencers. Have separate copy and separate campaigns for these three. Now you've got two campaigns at the start, which is self-serve, full serve. You've segmented them into three different buckets, which is customers and prospects. The third one could be potentially hybrid if you're trying to do an ABM play. Further, in these, do a 9x9, which is into users, buyers, and influencers with specific messages. Don't route this directly from your HubSpot. Use something like a sales loft for sales acceleration so that you have higher open rates. And SDR is potentially looking and monitoring at this activity so that they can convert this faster into a meeting. And use orchestration tools which enrich data like Clearbit to go ahead and get insights at scale. And lastly, do ads and run multi-touch campaigns at different platforms and do content syndication and offline nudges wherever possible to try and beef up the workflow. So then how do you actually go ahead and execute this from a tech stack perspective, right? So Salesforce and Marketo could be your potential CRMs. Salesforce becomes your sales acceleration tool. Clearbit does your data enrichment. And lastly, LinkedIn can do what you call is your ad campaigns, or you can use different tools for content syndication as well. What appeals to you in an email campaign, asks Anurag, and what will it take to get a meeting with you? Not much to get a meeting with me. Just send me a note, Anurag. I'm fairly accessible on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm happy to schedule time with you. We could do that either tomorrow sometime in the second half, or we could do sometime on Monday. So that works for me. We can get that started. Right. The last thing I want to cover is content marketing. And a lot of us actually have a boatload of questions on content marketing because I think this is like the most difficult one to solve. And this is the quote that I've learned. And if this is, by the way, one of my treasure troves of information. I read this blog religiously. I request you to. First round review. I read this there, which says, here's the short game of hitting quantity targets. And then there's a long game of building quality, engagement, loyalty, love, and respect. And I think in startups, if I've learned anything, it's always go long. Always solve for quality. The numbers will come. Don't shy away with, don't just go after quantity of targets. And I'll tell you why. So it's very important to pick the right content strategy archetype. And I want to give you perfect examples of what I mean by that, right? So for example, if your archetype is presence, you'll typically engage with social media content, advertising, you'll do contests, you'll do sponsorships. Like for example, Red Bull is a great example here. If you see, they do it parallelly with F1. And now that F1 is happening, they've got a sports team, they do contests, they're very active on F1.com. Taco Bell is a great example here. The use case here is they typically need entertainment and knowledge of this brand. That's what the community needs, right? And what does success look like? Success looks like how do you get more people aware of the brand and how you want to manage perception. Amoga, thank you so much. I'm really glad that you're liking it. Let's move to the next one. The second one is content as a window. Content as a window is where you're doing a lot of videos, interviews, customer stories, and really touching emotions of your customers. And I think McDonald's does a phenomenal job at that, where the objective really is to trust the company and its practices. And what does success look like? You're trying to figure out, do more people trust me? And this can be solved by doing many surveys. Thank you, Vino, for your kind feedback as well. The next one is content as a currency. I think this is where a lot of B2B firms try to solve for and adapt. Charles Schwab, Dun& Bradstreet are examples here. You typically do a lot of gated content, research reports, live streams. You want to, the use cases where your prospects or customers need high value information to make better decisions. And you need to be perceived as a subject matter expert. The next one is where you leverage content as a community. Here's where you're doing a lot of tips and tricks, microsites, niche publications, you're engaging in online forums where you need to kind of, demonstrate peer usage and support. You need to engage with people's passions and hobbies. And Sony PlayStation is like a phenomenal example here. And the last one is content as a support, where guys like General Motors, Comcast do a great job. So you're typically doing how-to demo videos, FAQs, user manuals, data sheets. You're asking the questions, are customers happy with the level of content support they receive? I know that was a lot to digest, but we got only 30 minutes, so I just wanted to quickly crystal it down. Meet, thank you so much. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And I wanted to kind of close off by this quote from Jale, right? And Jale said that if she was interviewing for a CMO job at a startup, she would never join a company without having pre-negotiated engineers on her team. Now, if you think about it, right? Why would you want engineers on your team? I think this is super important because gone were the days where marketing just had designers and content guys. I think today we need full stack engineers to be part of the team. And only if we have full stack engineers as part of the team, we'll be able to build up phenomenal campaigns and deliver stellar results. So with that, I'd like to wrap. I'd love to see if you have any questions. I'll try and stop my slides now. We'll try and see if we have a minute or two for questions. Back to you, Vikrant.
Yes, thanks, Aadil. This was amazing. I was just in awe, sitting and listening to all that you were saying. Would love to have like a follow-up session with you as well to kind of go into depths of this. There are a bunch of questions, although we are kind of out of time, but I'll quickly bring up something. It'd be lovely if you can address this.
Have there instances where you've seen focusing too broadly or narrowly on subject or niche backfired in B2B SaaS? It really depends. It's a very broad question, Chameli, and it's a great question, but I don't have an answer to this. I'd be lying if I give you a straight answer because it depends on the use case of your business and what you're trying to do. So I would just say, figure out what your revenue goal is and then backtrack everything. Say if you've got to get X 100,000 or Y $1 million of revenue, figure out what your funnel would look like and then back work and then have content as not content as a delivery, but content as an orchestration mechanism to try and see where you can use that to deliver success. So I know I didn't give you a straight answer, Chameli, but there's no way I can give you an answer directly. I'm more than happy to connect with you 1-to-1 and try and see if I can add value or help you.
Thanks, Aadil. Here's a really quick one. We just have about a minute more, but I didn't want to let it go. Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, do LinkedIn live sessions can be replicated for people or companies with less following? Absolutely, I think you can. Initially you might have to do either phenomenal content to build that following, or just spend a little bit of money advertising, or 3, try and get the right kind of community excited so that they can watch your sessions. So there are 3 ways you can do that. Most people are trying to crack this with ads and it works, but the key here is not doing sessions, just like once a quarter. You got to do something like once a month or twice a month and keep your community engaged and not do it for a quarter or 2, do it for a year or 2. That is when you'll start seeing ROI.
Yes, this was great, Aadil. Really sorry, but we'll have to wrap up. There are a bunch of other, kind of questions I had myself, but I think we'll take it offline. And if there's anything else, please reach out to Aadil on his Twitter handle or on LinkedIn. He'll be happy to kind of go through the sessions. And any questions as well, please feel free to add them on, and we'll kind of we'll see that Aadil gets that answer as well. Thank you so much, Aadil, and thanks all of you for joining in. We have the last session now, which will start in the next 1 minute. So I'll hop onto that room. And Aadil, it would be great if you can join as well, in case you're free. Would love to have you there as well. Thanks, guys.
Will do. Thanks, Vikrant. Thank you, Team SaaS Insider.
Thanks. Bye-bye.